Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Morning Coffee Review. It is the 14th of May, and man, it is beautiful outside. I love the spring. I love the blossoms falling from my tree, and it's just feeling good out there. I'm starting to see more construction projects, and things are just getting busy around here. How's things in your neck of the woods, Michael?
I agree. I think everyone's starting to feel that weight of busyness kind of hit now that it is that time of year. So excited for that movement to happen. Excited to also talk about some of the best workflows that you all have encountered and also talk with everyone about their week. But today is a cooler day. We are starting to hit the 100-degree heat out here in Phoenix, so it is not exciting. Um, but I am ready for it, I guess. How about you, Harley? How's the weather out there?
Perfect. You know, low 70s and sunny. I can't complain, but maybe that'll just rethink what I just said about coming to visit you in Phoenix here pretty soon. I may have to wait for
Oh,
October again.
I just thought about that. Yeah, because I was looking at the heat. We're going to be hitting 100. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm excited.
You can keep that stuff. But like Michael said, today's going to be a little different, and I think I posted that on LinkedIn. We don't really have a topic today. We've got a whole list of topics that we have for every week, and we modify them a little bit. And we're actually just talking. We need to start coming up with our list for June. So as always, if you have any suggestions or ideas or stuff that you want us to cover, just let us know, and we'll add it to the list. But today's more about best practices and workflows and stuff from you all. So I didn't give you much of a warning, of course, because it's been pretty busy over here. But if you've got something that you want to share or some trick or tip or whatever, let us know and we'll promote you in the chat. So you'll be able to share your camera and your microphone. Heads up, make sure your hair's in the right spot. And then we'll go from there and just have a sort of an open roundtable today. Um, there's a couple things I want to talk about, but I don't necessarily have stuff to share on the screen. So we're just going to sort of make this one a little looser than normal and give it a experimental try, right? So that said, we've been coming across more and more workflow issues, right? So last week we covered a lot about toolbox and toolbox maintenance and had a conversation about managing some of those external files. Since we covered that last week, is anybody out there or Michael, have you?
Yeah, I got a question the other day about organizing Bluebeam Cloud tool sets, but that's not something like you can define organization for. I mean, you can for your tool sets on your local computer, right? On the local desktop application, but not on the cloud application. Like when I go into cloud, I guess I could share instead of just do it. I was doing that the other day where I was I was explaining something to someone and I was clicking through, but I had forgotten to share. So
It's funny how that happens even after all these years of doing it.
I know it's wild. Um, but basically, when you're in here, we'll just go into sessions because it's easier just to quickly open something up from here and not go to a project PDF. But basically, when you have your tool sets within the cloud environment, you can't really organize or like re-upload push from the initial selection. All you have is what's available here. So on that initial like phase upload, you just have all of these, and there's some like archive ones in here, which is wild from trainings that I've done.
Mhm.
That's crazy. It just brought everything.
Yeah, and there is no way to alphabetize them or even put them into that managed thing that we have in the desktop products. You're kind of stuck with everything.
Yeah, and like I can't delete them. Oh, right click delete. Oh, well, I didn't want to delete trees, but it's fine. So I can rename them, but that's the cloud environment of renamed.
Right. It's not a direct sync with the desktop product. It syncs once when you get it going, but otherwise it's all going to be manual. So if you did want to rename or delete, you can do that here without affecting the desktop. Can you drag and drop them into a different order? That's something I don't think I've tried.
No, just right click. That's it. So when you have as many as I do, like I could create a new one.
But that
Okay,
just pops up. Does that pop up at the top or does that go to the bottom?
it's the bottom, but I just said new tool. I created one, but what? How do I can't drag and drop. So you can't even create a new tool set. Doesn't give you an option to create new tools. Like, do I drag that into here? Nope. So upload would be a new one,
Hmm.
but not like, well, what's the point of having this create tool set?
Unless you can drag from the interface. But
Oh, like here? You can't.
yeah. So yeah, it is a
Oh,
upload
save to
thing.
tool chest.
Oh,
You
there you go.
can. Yeah. So, okay.
Oh, then it goes to uncategorized. Then do you have to drag it? Because that would be annoying.
I don't think you can because I tried doing that earlier. Yeah, I can't move it around.
Can you right click?
Oh, move. Okay.
Oh
There
boy.
we go.
So it can be done, but boy, that is that not nearly as efficient. But again, I mean, if you only have a handful of tools, it's not that bad.
I mean, at least you can do it. That would be my one caveat. So uncategorized is the recent tools, I guess you would probably say. Not equivalent because I don't know if it removes it or not when you exit out of the browser, right? Like
Yeah.
if I that markup someone else's, but let's see, that markup's locked too. Um, hmm.
Yeah, just throw something in there and let's test that real quick. So talking about organizing tool chests, and David apparently has been looking at my garage camera, um, taking everything that's been piling up in your garage for years, and you just dump it into your new garage. That's fine. I've lived in this house for almost 14 years now, and I do still have boxes that I didn't unpack from when I moved here. So um, that's why I say David's been spying on me. There you go.
So I need to save it and then hit exit. So my bad.
Um, but so Caitlin, you got a great question. In review 20, can a studio admin access all studio sessions, or is that only a 21 cloud thing that we showed last week? So this is where Studio Prime is needed, right? Studio Prime is a tool that we talk about every now and then, but we could probably spend a whole month talking more about Studio Prime and what you can do in there. You, as an admin, my thing that I usually say is if you've got more than like 20 licenses of review or subscriptions to review, sorry, you should probably have Studio Prime because of the connectivity and the ability to upload files and collaborate with who knows who, right? How do you know the files that are being uploaded are not your client list or being distributed to the field that have issues or something like that? Using the dark uh, side of admin stuff, right? Studio Prime will allow you to see every user in your organization and all of their studio activity, both studio sessions and studio projects. So with that, when you log into Studio Prime, you can see what they're working on. You can see who they're collaborating with. If
You're
it's
probably like, hey, can you just show it?
yeah, you can also see if they're dealing with folks external to your organization, and you can see those files. And from there, you can also open up in review. So that's the only way to do it. There is no other way to see that as an admin, um, which will be interesting. Um,
Yeah, the only thing though is that you have to be aware is that they deactivated new API creation. And if you have Active Directory set up already, so like true SSO with the new Review 21, you can't have Studio Prime. Other than that, you can purchase it. So just wanted to add that in there from that perspective, Harley.
Right, right. And SSO does make things a little tricky, right? Um, but so
Ye-
let's talk about a little bit of the elephant in the room, I should say. Subscription to Review currently for the big version is $400 for now. A couple weeks it's going to go up to $440. So again, that 10% price increase is going to happen on June 1st. If you need to renew early or grab a new license, save you some money, you got a couple weeks to do it.
Mhm.
But Studio Prime is a whole different ball game, right? So for the
Did you look up
basic
the
level,
price list right now?
yeah, I've got
Yeah.
it up. The price for up to 100 users, that's not 100 collaborators, that's 100 users. So if your firm
So
has 20 people or 80 people, it's the same price, right?
if your
And
firm has
that's
20 people, it's the same price.
yeah, and that's $2,340 a year
That's
for
the
that.
lowest cost for it.
That's the lowest cost.
So it's
So
23 divided by 12, $200 a month.
now that goes up to if you get unlimited users. So there's 6 different levels of that, right? So it goes from 2,300 bucks all the way up to $83,000 for unlimited users. So up to 2,500 users is $35,000 a year. So the cost goes up quite a bit. And honestly, if you've got that many users, it's worth every penny to manage and see sort of what's going on. But we are seeing more adoption of Studio Prime, just
We saw
based
a
on
huge uptick once 21 came out because people, it is truly the wild, wild west in terms of if you have a license, and even if, well, now that if you can't create one when you don't have a license, but if you have a license, your company doesn't have any tracking capabilities of what you're uploading into session or projects, or from a management standpoint, you can't move easily an owner from a session to a project when someone departs from the company or the organization as well. So how do you do that? You can message us and go through the long route of trying to get Bluebeam to switch it from the user to the new user, because you may have deactivated the email address. You don't have access to the email, so you can't sign in to change that owner. And here I can easily go through and change the owner of a project from one person to the next. So these are all. So I can go to Jason's here and say, Jason is now, I'm the owner, or whoever we've added into here,
mhm.
that I am now the owner of this session. The other great benefit that I love of this too is if I'm not even part of this, like I probably am part of, no, I'm not, because
No.
he's the only attendee. I can view and review, and I'm not even a part of it. I wasn't even invited, but I'm an administrator and I want to go through and view what's happening in here. I can easily go through and view what's happening in that session as well. So it's opening, it brought me into it. He's even denied me, but I'm still in here.
Oh,
I
wow, look
think
at
you
that.
kicked me out of that one, but I'm still in here. Um, so I'm able to go through and see what's in this session, even though I wasn't initially invited. And I was actually, take that back, I was kicked out of this session by Jason. So,
Wow, just gonna keep bringing that up then, huh?
hmm.
Um, I think we used that as an example a couple weeks ago. So, hope that answers your question, Caitlin. If you are an admin and you want to see what everybody's doing, that's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
Um, there is no trial for Prime. There is no, hey Bluebeam, can I please? Nope. You have to spend the money, unfortunately, um, to
I
do
will,
it. However, I think it's worth it. I think it's
yeah,
worth
I
it.
will say this. If this comes back with a new um, i- interoperability agreement, this would be awesome. It needs to say ACC now.
Hmm.
BIM ACC, it would probably just need to say ACC.
Yeah.
Because that was a huge thing. So hopefully this gets brought back, because it was when it was BIM 360, then it was archived, and then now with this new agreement, if you have Prime, hopefully you can initiate a studio session, which is what you used to be able to do from documents that are uploaded into Docs in the BIM 360 or ACC platform. So Fingers crossed. Hopefully that comes back quickly.
right? That would be pretty
But you
good.
would,
And there are a lot more integrations that are available through Prime that aren't shown on Michael's screen. Those are just
yeah.
the ones that you had added. So if you go to the web store, or geez, whatever, there's a web store that shows you Ignite and Procore and some of
Procore.
those other ones
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll pull that up in a second. So Caitlin's got another question. So in the past, when you, okay, so the question's about when you switch to Review 21, does every user have to? You can't just have a
I get
couple
that a
do it.
lot. Like everyone's always very, and I get it from like an IT perspective. You probably don't want to implement something that's very new to people, but I will tell you it's the same user interface. Just sign in, but I get it, right? You have to do a slow rollout. I understand. So when you transition, do you want to answer that or do you want me to?
Well, I'll mention that you missed the window for the Level Up program, right? So you were able to trade in those licenses. So your Review 20 stuff is still a perpetual license. You don't have to do anything. If you just want to do a couple, you can. But for that promotion, that's when you had to do sort of all or nothing. So if
Mm,
you are just wanting to add a few licenses now, go for it. And then when you add more, you'll probably have to go through a reseller to prorate those things, because you don't want to have 8 different contracts out there.
why not?
Um,
I like having 10 different renewal dates and 10 different serial numbers. I don't
hey,
think it's a serial number now. It's like a product ID or something. I don't know.
yeah, if you want that job security, go for it. Give you stuff to track down. I'm sure some resellers would love to be calling you every week to tell you about your different stuff. Um, but in the meantime, you can prorate if you're going through a reseller, right?
Yeah.
So if you add some licenses in May and you need to add more in July, just prorate it. That way you have that one date. It makes your life a little easier. So you don't have to do all or nothing anymore if you're not, since there is no promotion to take advantage of. But even still, when they did that promotion, your Review 20 licenses didn't go away. You still have access to them. You would just be paying for a subscription to Review 21 and not using it, which is like a gym membership at that point, right? What's the point of paying for it if you're not going to use it? Um, Review
But
21 has some pretty good stuff in it.
yeah, but there's still some folks that are waiting to do the net neutral transition because they had maintenance. So for those folks, if you do decide to release your contract from the perpetual license version to the subscription license version at that net neutral cost, because there's still folks in those windows they always ask, well, what's the best process, or like what happens to our old license? Be aware when you have your old Review 20 license versions, you have a serial key and a product key, right? A serial
Yeah.
key and it was a product key, right? Okay. And you had access maybe to the gateway because you had the enterprise license. If you didn't have access to the gateway, then you just have those serial numbers and product keys. Those no longer allow you to unregister or re-register those licenses when you go to the net neutral transition. So if you had 100 extreme licenses with whatever serial key, and then you had some CAD with its own serial key, you can pick which contract you want to net neutral transition into the newest license process, right? So you can decide, like, I want all of these to go. I'm going to wait for some users to go. So I'm going to leave those CAD ones and not transition yet because I want to like do a phase approach. You could do it that way, but be aware whichever contract, old perpetual contract you're transitioning over to the new license tier, those still work at their current place, current desktop install spot. If it unregisters, the computer goes down, you can't access that license anymore. You have to go to the newest version. So yes, you can still use your old license if it was installed in the same spot, but if you're trying to install a new license onto somebody that just got hired and you don't want them to go to Review 21 because you're still figuring out the patches or whatever, you can't use an old Review 20 license to sign that new user into on a new install somewhere of Review 20. You have to use Review 21. So hopefully that like clears the room.
So the net neutral thing, we haven't talked about that in a while. Is that still a thing?
Yeah, if you still have your licenses in this time frame, you still have access to transition over.
I'm gonna take a look at it. So what we're talking about when it comes to the net neutral is that when you had Review 20, you paid maintenance, and that maintenance was an annual fee. And if you have maintenance it's up to date, you can do a net neutral, aka no cost other than time, to move that up to Review 21. If you don't have maintenance, well then that's where you miss the level up promotion. But I thought there was going to be a date where they would no longer accept um, renewals for maintenance. That's what
Yeah,
I'm
because we're
looking up.
still a year out from when that was happening. So like the renewals are still happening through these months. And I bet you it's probably in the same segue of like the new price increase. So at some point the net neutral won't happen because you had a year from your last recent signing of your contract, which was last year, if I remember it correctly. You had a whole year. So if you had a signed perpetual net neutral transition, you had the ability to just agree one more year, and then the next year net neutral transition into Review 21. So at some point, yeah, they will be phased out, right? Because you would have had to go into it or just not renewed your maintenance plan and then paid the new cost of a license. I know we're talking about licenses, and if you all have different questions, by all means, feel free to ask. But I know it's always hard navigating that, and someone asked, so there's ever a different question, feel free to ask. So while
Okay,
he
yeah.
figures, did you find it?
I'm not seeing anything in there when it comes to a date that they're going to do that. Um, but on that note, I just talked about the prices increasing 10% on June 1st. That doesn't apply. I just found this asterisk here. That doesn't apply to people who converted complete plan subscriptions that were upgraded from maintenance. Those prices happened June 1st or January 1st, right? So if you already got that price increase January 1st because you did that grandfathered in net neutral transition, it's not going to go up another 10% here 6 months later, right? That will
Yeah.
probably continue at the calendar um,
It's
change in
every renewal
2025.
year. Yeah.
Yeah.
You get a
Okay.
10% net. Your net neutral is 10% compounding year over year for guaranteed for 5 years. That's it.
Right. But I do want to dive in a little bit more. I know we've got some IT folks here. When it comes to dealing a phased approach or a phased rollout, I think a lot of folks have had heartburn over other technical software that maybe starts with an A and doesn't end with an E. That where if you move your project from 1 year version to the next year version, it can cause a big headache. We've been testing Review 21 for over a year now, right? It's been out
Hmm.
for over a year. It's a freaking PDF platform, right? There isn't a big change. All it is the 15 minutes of install time, right? You're not going to break a current project. You're not going to break a current session. You're not going to run into any other issues other than dragging your feet, right? So if the phased approach doesn't make sense, in my opinion, unless you don't have the time to go computer by computer to
Computer,
roll it
yeah.
out, or if you don't trust people to do it themselves, managing it is pretty darn easy. The portal takes a whole 30 seconds to maybe 5 minutes to learn. Um, it's pretty darn slick. Now, Sheldon, you're in a different story because your firm is massive. And it's not as easy as that, and you've got offices spread all over the place. But for the average size firm, this is an upgrade that can happen in an afternoon.
Yeah, just because just being aware that like it will push automatically some of the profiles you had existing from Review 20 install. So I didn't have an issue, well, when I moved computers I did. But I didn't have an issue when I had it side by side on my old computer because it pushed those cached local profiles tool sets into my new user of Review 21. So I didn't see a difference. Everything was already there when I installed it. So and you can do it side by side if you wanted to as well, and then run the uninstall later. But it's up to you on if you wanted to be cautious or whatnot. Everything's still cache local on the machine in those cache local drives on Review 20. If for some ever reason they're like, my profiles didn't come over, they're still cached local on that machine still, no matter what.
Right. I've seen more Windows updates break projects than review installs, right? Um, Now going back to what I mentioned, like if you were moving from like Revit 21 to Revit 25, um, in the middle of a project, absolutely, there's repercussions for that, and you have to be planned a little. You have to plan it out a little bit better. When it comes to review, you can do it heck in the middle of a session if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Um,
I
so
feel like we're getting a lot of questions lately about this. I definitely have been in like walking people through the process. And I think we're just over complicating it because we're comparing it to a different solution or different
mhm.
software. And it's completely separate from that. You're not losing your projects, your sessions. You're just continuing work as if you were starting a new computer with a new install of Review 20, but you're keeping everything there. Like it was just as easy for me to install Review 21 on this computer, and then I just accessed everything. Like all my sessions and projects were here. It's not, you continue on about your day.
Yeah, that's exactly it, David. Going back to old Tommy Jefferson's quote, the problem's usually between the floor and the keyboard, the chair and the keyboard. So,
Yeah, I used to use
um,
the chair and the keyboard, but the floor and the keyboard I didn't think about.
yeah, I mean, because not everybody has chairs anymore. Standing desks are a thing, so that whole moniker goes away.
Oh, I forgot.
Yeah, PEBKAC. So, um,
Well,
it's funny. Yeah.
with that, do we have anyone that wants to share some workflows? I know we had some eager people maybe say some stuff on the social. Not pointing any fingers.
Yeah. Anybody want to raise their hand and either share some? Oh, Doug's ready. Fine. Let's see.
I'll
Okay, I'm
stop
gonna
sharing. We'll see how this works. We've never done this.
yeah. Doug,
Typically, we message Justin and say, "Hey, this person's gonna jump on with us."
make a presenter. So I didn't just do. Yeah, this is a good test. Thanks for doing that, Doug. So Doug, I made it so you can unmute and you can share your camera whenever you're ready now. Um, I should try it the other way too. Maybe
Is it
do that in a
going?
minute. There
Yep,
you
we
go.
can
I can
hear
hear you.
you.
Oh, there we go. Okay, it is working.
Hey, good
Good
morning, Doug.
morning. Good
Morning,
evening. And it's hockey day, just in case
hockey
you're aware.
day.
I
It's
was
hockey day.
wondering.
Oh, hell yeah. It's hockey day. Got old school Nux jersey on today, so, we'll give
Me
it
too.
going.
Cool. So what have you been working on, Doug?
Oh, too much. We're upgrading everything. We're in the process of making sure everything's working. Linking our tool chest. That was something I didn't even know about until last week. So thank you very much for that. We tested it out with one guy who is still in the office with us, and yeah, it worked really well. I got to say, I'm sorry for my voice. I broke a tooth Thursday afternoon, and I can't.
Ouch.
Yeah, getting it fixed this afternoon.
No, you
So
sound fine. You're good.
yeah, it's just my F's are a little funny right now. Big hole in front of my teeth.
What goes along
No,
with a
no
hockey
worries.
jersey, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there you go. It fits. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, no, not a hockey injury. It was an apple. Nothing quite as innocuous as hockey. It was just bit an apple, and the front tooth just came with it. And it was like, ah, crap. And then my wife's surgery was this weekend, so I couldn't even deal with it until I got back from after surgery and all things.
Mhm.
So
Nice.
she came through with flying colors.
Good to
Everything's
hear.
good. She's
Congrats.
just recovering. She's down the hallway. I'm actually at home this week to keep an eye on her. But all things are good. So
Good to
Perfect.
hear.
It's
we're like,
exciting.
yeah,
Yeah,
exciting and a little less nerve wracking.
Yeah.
no doubt.
The stress is settled down, right?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit, but it's still a little ways to go, but we're gonna get there. Okay, where are we going here? It's that one.
Yeah, so I think a lot of folks love to have you listen to some of your workflows, Doug, from
Yeah,
an estimating perspective and what you've all been able to do and kind of push that envelope. But I'm interested to
yeah,
see what you have here. Look at these columns.
Insane.
yeah. We did these about 3 years ago. Um, and they're all really extensions of our estimating software, which to really it's really how it works. So where it sits, just starting from the top, we get a lot of this in millwork where they want it in a different work category. So whether it's like we have a drop down list in here of pretty much standard ones, which again we can edit on a job basis. An elevation call out, which I sometimes use, sometimes I don't. More likely I go back and fill it in later. Architectural millwork has a couple of grades to it, so custom and premium. So this whole elevation here is a premium grade, whereas this one here is custom grade. And there's some differences that go to it, but they're subtle. How we build the cabinet, like this one's going to be white melamine to the interior, and it's going to be painted to the outside, so that's why it's gray. Again, this is a hardware package. This one really doesn't apply to casework. It more or less applies to like wall paneling or how we want to edge tape it, what's going on the face of it, what the adjustable shelves are going to be, how many they're going to be. And again, these are codes that live in our estimating software that we tell it, and we can set that as a global parameter. So like for a tall cabinet here, we can set that they get 4 on the project, and that's what it's going to tell it, for example. There gets door locks, drawer locks, finished end, and a couple of other ones for different items. So I go over here to a die wall, for example, and different things pop up in here for it that we can, go with it. And even the product is what it's all about. So, and we're building this right now where we're going to be able to add a little bit of extra time here that we can import into our estimating workbook with a little bit of Excel magic. So I'm working on that this week while I'm sitting at home kind of convalescing. And there's lots. Go ahead, Jason.
So you've got this all pre-populated, essentially, knowing that it's going to go into Excel, and then as the mediator, the middleman between that and your estimating software.
Yeah, exactly. It's all set up that way. So even something like this, which shows all our buyouts and whatnot. So we've labeled all this, and like these all are different metal symbols that we've come up with. Like this is a metal plate for the countertop. We zoom in, there's a custom line style here for a steel frame, embed plates, and the countertop brackets. So we can relay this to our millwork engineering team, and they know what we've allowed for. We relay this to our metal shop, and they know this is what we're going to price, and we'll talk about this beforehand, and just no ambiguity anywhere for it, right?
That's wild. I like
and
how
then
colorful you got it.
Yeah, and then that. So do you do when you export it? You do this still the Power?
I still run it through Power Query. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's the only way to, like, you get all of these options here. They all have to end up in one column at the end of it for our estimating software. So all these options have to be. So it has to be done in a certain way, and Excel's just not capable of doing it, not on its own. Excel itself, Power Query is more designed to do that. You have to build a bunch of helper columns with Excel. It's just not really conducive. The other thing that this allows you to do, I'm just going to open up a blank one here. By the way, thanks for that. That was a great tip. I did not know this. To click that and get your scale from there. That was awesome when we found that out. So our tool chest consists of very generic stuff. Okay, so I just have a full height base cabinet in PL1, for example, and we set these up on a per job basis, but we always get plastic laminate 1, right? So we'll just drop that in if I can. Oh, it hasn't applied it yet. It will now. Yeah. So I can go in and tell this, okay, this is a base full height 1 or a base full height 2. This custom column here saves me from having a full list of every different type of cabinet that I want, that I could possibly have. Or maybe this is, this particular one is a base 2-1, which a bank of drawers 2-1, which is what that would be, right?
So do you just ignore the label then? Like the label says full height that you grab, but they're using the product.
Yeah, I can adjust it accordingly. So I'll adjust that, as it goes. That's basically there. Some of these are very specific because they do have different options. Like obviously, like if I drop a sink cabinet on, obviously it's not going to get an adjustable shelf. So it's already pre-populated to the adjustable shelves not included. Right. So we have some stuff in there that's set for that. It works really, really well for us. We've been doing this for 3 years. We're constantly tweaking it, making it a little bit better, but it just works really well. And our projects teams like it. Our customers like it. We've shown it to a few of them and they're like, wow, this is crazy. We even showed it to a company called Energy, which is a estimating software designed for architectural millwork, and they're like, you built Energy inside of Bluebeam.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, do you think Bluebeam knew this is what people were gonna use Revu for?
Maybe.
Like when they came out with the PDF writer at the beginning of the day, do you think they had a thought of creating a PDF solution that was a estimating solution software?
They like to push their estimating abilities, and I would say yes, because they do a lot of that, especially in the rest of the AEC industry. For someone in the finishing trades, though, it is lacking. I've mentioned this before, and it the lack of an if statement in your calculations in the markups list makes it limiting. But you can still do a lot with it, and you just have to get that out of Revu and let a tool do what it can do. Let the other tools do what they do well, right? Which is where transition programs like or bridge programs like Power Query come into play, and your estimating software comes into play. We all talk about the one solution. I'm more like, well, let's get everybody talking to each other and let this program do what it does well, and let this program do what it does well, and just let them talk to each other.
Yep.
Right. But in the right way that doesn't take forever in a day, right?
Yeah, and that's because you're able to export directly into Power Query, and then from Power Query, you're able to go into your estimating software.
Correct. Yeah. Well, I wish. That would be really great. But yeah, I do have to still do a PDF export or like a markup summary export, but that's all you have to do. And I have those on like stock batch config files. So everything here is linked to, it's linked to clean this up based on our workflow. So it's preset. The 3 of us use it. So there's never an issue with that, right? We all have the same export file.
Are you going to a file because you're still sharing your screen? I just always make people sure that they're aware that they're sharing their screen. So I'll take.
No.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, I just switched screens on me for some reason. How do I didn't really mean to do that. And I shared that monitor and then I moved.
Yeah.
I moved it off.
Revu.
I moved it off. Okay, that's what I did. Yeah.
So David made a comment that Review will never handle multiple material, multiple wage, equipment rates, multiple crews, subs, etc.
Uh, no, well, it can, but only to a very small extent. You really have to know how to get into doing that, but that is way easier to do in Excel. Much easier to do in Excel.
Yeah.
So you could just build a table and um, it'll all work out. You can link it together. Vince does that really well when he's bringing that in together, right?
Yeah, what you're leveraging Review for is quantifying items from the PDF sent, right, or
Right.
received, and you're being able to quantify what you need to appropriately from that perspective. And then, and what you've always have shown us, and Vince has shown us before too, is washing that data and getting it into Excel in a well formulated format, and then finishing it off in Excel. Because, like you said earlier, I think, which is a great keynote, is that, right, the softwares that are currently at their state, let them do what they do best in their current state, and then hopefully, that better integration with coordinating solutions is where we should push the industry, because other solutions are already great at what they're doing, like Power Query and Excel.
Exactly. And the more I learn in Power Query, the more fun it gets. It is really something that if you're doing anything with data, you should really learn. And it's not as difficult as you think it is. If you know even a little bit of JavaScript or a little bit of coding, a lot of the syntax is the same. But once you get into it, you kind of understand, oh, hey, this is really cool. There's things it can do that Excel cannot do, not easily, which is like one of the things we're trying out now. And I've made a YouTube video on for a better grouped markup. So Power Query can do that so easily, and it's like, oh wow, what we're going to be playing with this in the near future is yeah, this is kind of fun.
Yeah, it's awesome to see what folks are using this tool for in the industry. And it's also great to look at. You can see from his panels of toolbars what he has available. You must like to align things. You have measurements easily accessed to as well.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we're doing when we do a layout, we'll align stuff up and make it look pretty, especially if we're showing it to a client.
Mm.
I've shown it to a few in the last little bit, some rather large projects, and they're like, wow, this is this is a little bit different than what we're used to seeing from some people. So it does help, and it's made us, gives us a little bit of an edge to some of the projects we do. And plus the sheer size of the projects that we take on, it just helps all around, right? Like we're not a small millwork company. We have 90 odd employees, so we don't take on the little jobs. Our usual minimum is about $500,000 worth of millwork. That's about the smallest job we'll look at.
Wow,
goodness.
Just because it doesn't make any sense for us to do that. There's 4-man shops out there that can do small jobs. Right? Let them have it, right? But they can't do stadiums, which we do, right? We're actually just finishing up the Clippers stadium right now in LA.
Oh, cool.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we're just wrapping up. Yeah.
Think about that. And did you use Review to estimate some of that?
Yep.
That's wild.
Did Clippers. We did the LAFC stadium in LA. We did, right after that, we did the Chase Center in San Francisco as well. So we had stuff here. We're doing we're looking at right now a new reno at BC Place for the upcoming FIFA tournament, World Cup tournament.
I forgot it was going to be in Canada.
Yeah, part of it is, yeah. We actually did a lot of work on BC Place just before the Olympics too. So it's kind of like, okay, now they're renovating it again, 14 years later. They're not changing the roof this time, so which is great. But Jason knows all about the roof we used to have. They had the same one in Minnesota. Is that building still up?
No.
No, they took it down.
No.
Our building's still up. They just changed the roof. They made it. They took off the marshmallow in bondage, as it was referred to big girders, steel girders. Yeah, pretty cool.
So what other questions do some folks have maybe for Doug in creating these? And I guess while you start rolling those in for those folks listening in, I would want to ask you, how long did it take you, do you feel, to create those custom columns, understand how they were going to work? Was it a quick process? Was it over a couple of years?
Initially, and this is asked to me at XCon, actually, the initial one took me a week to build it and build it up to where it was functional. We've been working on this for 3 years, and one of the things we initially did, I'll just bring it back up here. I had a lot of these columns all in one box, and we said that didn't work really well. So we broke it down. It was just too difficult to edit. It was just a bit of a pain. And then we said, well, let's split them up. And then I had to kind of figure out how to put them all back together. So, so initially a week, but we've been working on this for 3 years, and we'll keep going until we have it perfect. Process for adding new tools. We do discuss it as a group. My team, we do really work as a team. We all have slightly different workflows, but we all work together. Again, David, like I said, this is tied to our estimating software. So what we do here has to work there as well. So that's kind of the one process that has to be, we have to really coordinate between the two of them. And, for the most part, it'll work with Power Query, but you always have to double check to make sure that nothing's going to go screwy in the query. And it usually doesn't, as long as between the two, they are compatible. Easily updating product list. Yes, actually, the product list is a direct export from our estimating software. So if something is added in there, we export that from the estimating software, because spelling counts, by the way. So that's the thing we have to, if this column here is the key in our estimating software, the product column. So if this is misspelled, it won't come in properly. Same with the finish, the construction finish and hardware. They all have to match exactly in spelling. So those get exported from our estimating software. We clean up the CSV file in Power Query and then import it back into Revu as a CSV file. So that way we get a full list with the subject.
Wow, look at that list.
Yeah, there's 54. So all of this comes in
via import right there, right?
Yeah, via a CSV import. So, and we do this if it's one or two tools, we'll bring in one or two tools at a time. But once every 3 months or so, if we've developed new tools in our estimating software, we'll just run that and it's done.
And you are putting a subject to these, so it is exclusive to what options are showing up by your subject.
Yeah, correct. It's the only way. I mean, there's 500 odd products in here, right? So it's the only way you can really break that down. So the subject matters. The label doesn't matter too much, right?
Yeah, that's a way to, whenever you're doing a choice custom column for those folks listening in, if you don't put anything there, it's option for all markups. But if you do put an option there under subject, it's specific to that subject, needs to equal the same subject of whatever markup it shows up in for it to show data there.
Exactly. Yeah. And as for like keeping all three of us in line, since this was like, okay, this is cool, we're going to start implementing this as soon as I get back after our long weekend. But then I let everybody know that, hey, new columns are updated, and guys, go update your custom columns. And we have it on a shared drive, and with it being three of us, okay, it's like, okay, and they just go do it, right? They don't worry about it too much. We have saved profiles in case something screws up. We have, it's
recovery. Yeah,
it's just in case, right? We're not. And two of us are pretty tech savvy, and the other one's not bad, but we're pretty good at it.
Yeah, I think those are good questions from a perspective like how people break tools, right, and the process. I think it takes one power user, and then from that perspective of understanding it, and you don't have to start out as a power user, right? You're just learning how the software is utilized, and you just know your process internally and how you can connect those dots within that solution. And then it all starts with one brick. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yep.
And then you start building that brick into what it is going to be today. So it's always one starting point.
Yeah. We our team was larger at one point, David. We scaled back. We can do these things pretty efficiently now, so they don't give me as many people as I'd like to have. I would honestly like to have at least one more. I would like to have a junior right now. It'd be great, but the industry demands and trying to find that person is tough, especially trying to find an estimator, and a millwork estimator is really hard, right? So it'd be great if we could get one, but we don't have one yet at this point.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. The industry is definitely lacking experienced or folks just being in this part of the industry. So
everybody's hiring.
Yep.
Yeah, everybody's hiring skilled people, so that's the thing.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge that we see. There is a gap.
There's a huge gap. Yeah.
That's something maybe we should talk about in the future, like how collectively we can help with that. Maybe
I feel like it's a lack of willingness to mentor, but also because there's the gap of mentorship that happened. I feel like too. People left the industry. Then there was no mentoring because people wanted skilled labor, skilled experienced people. But now we're causing the same issue that we're in now, which is like we only want to hire skilled people versus giving new folks a step into the industry. So that causes another lag at some point in the next 5 years or whatever that is. If we're only hiring skilled labor versus mentoring people, or like, Doug is saying, a junior, then we have an issue again, because just propelling and kicking the ball down the road, right?
Yeah, we do need that person. We got a couple of people we're looking at at work, and right now our floor is quite busy too, so you don't really want to pull someone off your floor too at the same time. So that makes life even more fun. I don't want to do the math. I still don't do math. I let Excel do the math. I don't do any math anymore. It's why? And it's never accurate. That's the other thing with something like Power Query when you're moving from this list into an estimating software of some form, because it's done digitally. There's no errors. Right? What you make here is what's done there. That's what goes in. Right? And I do have steps in there that round, to make it a little more, so you don't get the 4 decimal places later.
I think we should have you back on to show the Power Query side, because I know that was a big question for a lot of folks, is how do you wash data, like a power. It's not a Bluebeam Revu training, but a power
Yeah.
query training.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm working with Troy too at U Chapter 2 to do with a little bit and there to come up with something. I've just had some personal issues to
Yep.
have to deal with over the last little while, but that is coming for some. There's a little bit of insight for some those of us that are U Chapter 2 members, but it does work, and I can show you my. The new one we're working on, which I call the better grouped markup, because we all know that you're 40, David. I'm going to be 57 in 6 weeks. Okay, so there you go. Yeah, we all know the grouped markups have their challenges in review,
Yes.
and we've come up with a way that we actually have, and I have a few of them. Like they're mostly in here, where. Like here's where it is right here, where I have a stone countertop, a plywood subtop, and a steel frame all together, and I can actually get all those units, all those measurements in one markup, right? And they'll all populate. They won't populate in the markups lists, but they will go externally after I clean that up and break that apart. So, and
That'll be interesting.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
So those
how
are
it
groups.
works.
That's a group of markups.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a measurement and whatever else you. It doesn't.
Exactly.
They don't have to
Yeah.
be measurements. It could just be whatever you group together in a
Well,
markup.
it does work better with a measurement, because that's what I'm really trying to achieve. Is I want to know what the size of that stone countertop is, and I also need to know what the size of the subtop is, and I need to know what the steel frame is. Right, what that size is, so I can send that out to my steel guy to go, okay, we need a steel frame that's going to cover this countertop. So these are the things that I need, but it could be done with anything to break them apart. But yeah, sure. I mean, it's just a delimiter and a split, so it's not a huge deal. Right?
You lost me, but I mean, we'll. That's why I think we should have a conversation of having some of these, like that next step. I think would be a good whenever you get this figured out and everything's better and down the road, let's have you back on and have you jump on and have that conversation.
Yeah, I can go anytime. Next week's probably not good because we're back from a long weekend next week, and you guys have, you work it into June or whatever. Yes, we have a long weekend.
Yeah, we're creating our list for June, right?
You get a long weekend this weekend. We get a long weekend next weekend.
Next weekend.
Yeah, let's do show and tell with Doug sometime in June. I'll put you on the calendar and I'll send you an invite, and we'll go from there. But that about brings us up to our time today. Thanks for hopping on, Doug, and sharing your stuff.
Problem.
And certainly thank you for sharing the
Thank you,
update
Doug.
on your wife. And I'm glad to hear that everything's going well.
Yeah.
And we will see you again next time. Everybody have a great week. Be safe out there, and we'll talk again real soon.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone. Hope you learned something.
Likewise. Thank you, Doug.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Hey there. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe and check out some of the other content on our channel.